welcome back. Hello. How is everyone doing? I also forgot that I left the chat box on. So you know what? We're just gonna leave that there because I love looking at my chat box uh, after I've edited. Um, and welcome, folks. It is another episode of Couch Potatoes with our guest host, Middeclass. How are you doing, Graham Cracker Muncher? I know you told me I can call you Graham, but I get a kick out there every time I sit there and I say your name and everything. Um, Let me actually turn on the background light. It's probably the last thing I forgot to sit there and do because your boy here is far behind. But we are on a time cruncher episode for today, so we are only going to be going for 90 minutes and everything. I think we can sit there. We can get everything broken down in 90 minutes. Before we jump into season 2, our wonderful Mitty is going to give us the recap for season 1. Mitty, take it ahead.
Yeah, so hello. Basically last time we spoke about season 1 of Yellowjackets. If you're not familiar with the show, basically it's about a group of girls, the girls' soccer team. This is back in 1996. They are on their way to nationals and they take a private jet. And the plane crashes. Only a few of them survive. Um, and yeah, they just have to survive the wilderness and all the things that go into that. And then there's two timelines, and there's the adult timeline, and we only get introduced to four of the remaining characters, so we're not sure if anyone else is alive or not yet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, just basically living their adult lives, and how that sort of PTSD and trauma has affected their life now. One character, Shauna, she has a kid now, so kind of how that affects generationally, um, and yeah, they all sort of have their different paths, which we go into season 2.
And season 1 had like the best fucking season 1 cliffhangers. It was to the point that once me and Mitty finished doing this, I was like, tomorrow we got to get it done. And I don't think that we got to like watch the second season until like what, like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I think you were busy that week.
I
and
think so,
um
yeah.
and I was like, I'm ready for it. I'm ready. I gotta know what the fuck's gonna happen in that. I love some Juliette Lewis, and I love her in this season too. But God, I hate what happens, and we are gonna get into that later on. Uh, what is your first impressions after seeing season 2? What did you think before we jump into the spoilers for a little bit?
Season 2,
Yeah, for season 2, like.
season 1.
Well, I mean, like, what do you think overall of season 2 before we jump to the nitty gritty?
I It had a good balance of setting the tone, but also subverting expectations. And we kind of get into that last episode is of these like unreliable narrators, and I think it kind of just keeps edging that way. Um, but at the same
Edgy.
time, seeing the consequences of those lies and false narratives,
Yeah.
which I liked. What about you?
Uh, I don't think it's a bad season, but I do believe it could have been better. And we had this talk at the end of it with the writing and everything that we will get into later on once we get through the story aspect of it. But to me, I still enjoy season 1. I think season 1 had some of the best setups. I love the characters that we got to meet. We got to say goodbye to some characters in here. Some of them I did not want to say goodbye to because I was like, damn it,
Mm-hmm.
no, and everything. Um, but this season, I cannot sit there and say it's a bad season. It's a decent season. You know, I feel like being mediocre would be too nitpicky, but it's a decent second season. Um, and it really
There
makes.
was there was parts that I really loved, but
Mm-hmm.
parts that were disappointing. And so it definitely taints that sort of definitely what season 1 has already built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it felt like there were certain parts of this, mostly the Shauna story, where it's like, why wasn't this season 1? why didn't we see this with her family season 1? You know, but like the more that I keep thinking about it, season 1 felt like such an ensemble cast, whereas
Mhm.
season 2 does not, and everything. And we are going to get into that with the 1996 story. Winter is coming. I like that tagline. I think Winter is coming has been like used in what, Game of Thrones. It's been used in AEW because they did that for like when Sting came back. So I just love that tagline. Winter is coming. Um, and we're gonna break this down differently. We're gonna break this down character by character. So there's gonna be a lot of backtracking because a lot of this stuff happens over time. And even with the 2021 timeline with these episodes, is that a lot of them are a lot of back and forth comparisons of where the character was then versus now. So we're going to focus on 1996. And if you kind of wonder, like, well, why are we backtracking? It's like, this is the only way you can really kind of cover something like this show, in my opinion, in order to kind of get all the character stuff. So we have Shauna coping with the trauma of losing Jackie. Um, Throughout it has been 2 months since Doom's coming,
Got
and
Jackie. There's
thank you.
Shauna.
There's Shauna, and what ended up happening was essentially Shauna begins hallucinating, and she starts seeing Jackie talking to her, and they've been hanging around in the meat shed, pretty much. That's not a euphemism. That's just what it is. It's a meat shed. Um, and this kind of goes on for a
There's
few.
Jackie,
Mm-hmm.
and
It,
she died at the end of season one. Just to let people know, she froze to death because winter has
yeah,
officially come.
she was exiled from the Yellowjackets due to just her losing control, like losing that leadership role, and Lottie was definitely taking that up. But thank you so much, Warbler. But yeah,
Hi, Hunter.
it's been about like 2 months and everything. Shauna's talking to dead Jackie. She's doing her makeup and everything. Her ear comes off. And one of the interesting things that I found from some of the video essays, because I did watch video essays on this because it'd been a while since we finished up. Shauna is the first person in the group to taste flesh. Before they even cook Jackie, Shauna eats the ear to hide it. So if that was not already a hindsight of what they were going to do to Jackie, Thaisa going through her own stuff, which we'll get into here in a bit. She ends up discovering what Shauna is doing with Jackie's dead body, mentioning it's not healthy. They need to sit there and they need to cremate her and everything because apparently burying her just won't be enough. Cremating her will suffice and everything. And while the girls are all locked up in the cabin in which that they are living in, this massive blizzard comes in. There's a couple of people. I do believe Shauna and Ty were outside and they were caught in this blizzard when the whole cremation stuff was going on. And everyone was able to kind of get back in. And what ends up happening is the snow fell on to the pyre in which they were cremating Jackie in, and what it ended up doing was it cooked Jackie instead of, which I gotta say, that's one hell of a clean cook all the way through. You know, it's like, not to be nitpicky here, but that was a clean cook. Like, all the hair is gone and almost everything's intact. And
I
I
mean, I haven't myself cooked a body,
yeah, you know,
so I don't know exactly how that would work, but maybe you know better than I do.
I mean, I would kind of figure that the body, like, because, like, I don't know, just the way how it is. I know it's a TV show, folks. Don't be too nitpicky. I feel like that's got to be my new catchphrase when it comes to some stuff that is just a little bit pushing the beyond factor of this. But like of just how like still she was and everything, and I guess you can attribute it to the meat locker being frozen in there. She was already frozen. They just thawed her out and then cooked her. Um, but you would figure that like a human body, you know, like it would shrivel a little bit, and hers didn't. You know, it's like all the juices were intact, essentially. You know, but
Well, I think because she had like a blanket of snow and it
yeah,
cooked her that way because it's like the steam. So she basically got rotisserie.
yeah,
You
crock
know,
pot.
it wasn't like right over an open flame. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a
Uh,
slow cook.
this is pretty dark and everything. We're talking about what? These are 15-year-old girls getting cooked.
She's not real. It's
Oh my
fine.
god. But yeah, the girls end up seeing it. They start feasting on Jackie. Everyone except for Ben Scott, and obviously Javi, because Javi wasn't there. But Ben sat there and saw this. The girls kind of see themselves in this weird kind of Greek myth. You know, like, oh my God, we're dining on all this fancy food. And then as you cut back to Ben watching it, and they're just devouring Jackie like
That's a
gremlins.
great scene.
Yeah,
The cutting of like just this sort of animalistic thing of them just, eating Jackie, and then intercut with them like their royalty fine dining.
yeah.
Um, yeah. This is Coach Ben Scott. He is the
Which,
only adult left
yeah,
in the after the crash. So I think you can kind of attribute his hesitance with that, with his maturity of like, no, I can see that this is wrong. Whereas everyone else, they sort of believe in this wilderness, supernatural entity, and they view everything that's happening to them as
faith based
like this
almost.
is for them. This is why we're still alive. And I think Ben is the only one at this point, besides Jackie, she's dead, who doesn't really believe that. We have other characters that do, but they kind of still believe when it's convenient for them. Like
Yeah.
Thaisa. Thaisa doesn't necessarily believe in it, but she'll still eat Jackie.
I mean,
Because
like, she's like,
yeah,
that's food right there. It's cooked. They're all starving. So I think belief is thrown out the window just for the sake of, I need to eat, you know, and yeah, like seeing Ben go through there, like, I'm like over here, it's like, this dude had so much strength to not eat Jackie. Like, the restraint on that man. Like, he just looked at it like, oh my God, I'm surrounded by monsters and everything. It's like they're just ripping her to shreds.
I
And
think anybody in that situation, you have to sort of assess whether your morality or what's more important to you,
yeah,
survival or morality. And that I think that goes into his age of actually questioning that.
yeah, and everything. Because even then, like, there's some that they were already giving up their morality to begin with. The
Yeah.
moment that Lottie started doing, like, the, I saw like a vision, all this other stuff. Um, and then kind of like, and it's funny too, because our faith based character who died in season 1, no one really gave two shits about her. Right, almost right next to Misty. Like, no one cared about her. But the moment that Lottie started doing it, and I think the only reason was also too, she did gut a bear. She did that, and she did promise him all this other stuff. Where the other ones, anytime that they've made a promise, it's either blown up in their face or something had prevented them. But Lottie
The
seems to be
faith-based
right.
character as well, Laura Lee, she's like, oh, God wants me to, I believe in myself. God believes in me that I could fly this plane, and the plane blows up and she dies. So I mean, if they're taking everything at face value, like they're gonna be like, oh, God doesn't exist then, because God just killed off Laura Lee.
But also too, you can look at it as, he didn't sit there say you would survive the flight. Yes, you
Yeah.
can fly the plane. I did not say you were going to be able to find help, to land
Also,
safely, you know.
in season one, Lottie also was sort of baptized by Laura Lee,
Yeah.
almost like passing the torch of like this spiritual force.
Yes.
So I
Uh,
think that kind of really set in stone when Laura Lee died, and Lottie was really the only one who's directly mourning her.
exactly. And
Yeah.
we even see that later on in the season when we start talking to like the adult stuff with Laura Lee popping up. But jumping a little bit later into the season for Shauna's story, Shauna is she's getting closer to giving birth to their child. It's her and Jeff's first baby. And Lottie starts acting very weird around it. It makes it sit there seem like it's not your baby, it's our baby. And that obviously sets uh, Shauna off, because Shauna doesn't really feel like she has allies. Like, she kind of gets along with Ty and them, but she even knows that I think that Ty has her own agenda, at stake here. Shauna ate her own best friend and everything, which really, towards the end of that, they stopped being best friends, and it just started looking more of, you know, one person living in another person's shadow. So she definitely feels vulnerable. She feels alone here with her child. And then Lottie pretty much is Rosemary babying all this shit of, hey, let's, it's our child. She starts talking to it. And then when it actually gets to the actual birthing, um, a lot of other key elements go in here that we'll talk about, like Misty not being able to sit there at first to do the delivery. I think Ben couldn't do it. Ben just did not know. He's like, I just played the videotapes, and it was like,
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit! It was like, play the
Nor would
videotapes, did
he
not
probably
watch it
want
with
to.
them. Yeah,
Yeah.
and which is even funny because like it's the only adult in here. Don't you have some experience? I only hit play. I did not watch, and it's like, God, isn't that a real thing? And upon Shauna thinking that she had the child, she keeps having these hallucinations and these dreams in which Lottie is trying to take away the child, that Lottie is trying to make the child her child and everything, and that she's going to become the mother. And then there are dreams and hallucinations in which she sees, which I think is a bit more the guilt of what they've done to Jackie, where the rest of the Yellowjackets team is eating the child, which to me, I'm all like, that's just an appetizer. It's like, that's about 12 girls? 12 girls and one boy?
That's another sort of joke within the sort of online community is all these other like new characters pop up in season 2 with lines and stuff because, we need more people eventually to kill off or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but I was gonna say something, um, what were we just what were we just talking about
We were
before
talking
that?
about the
Oh
Shauna's
yes, the
baby.
baby, yes. That I feel like that was one of the first times I've ever seen something that is not real, like in a dream sequence, go over into the next episode. Because at the
Yeah.
end, I don't remember which episode, but at the end of episode, Shauna's baby is alive, and then it cuts to credits. And the next episode, it kind of continues throughout pretty much the whole episode. Oh, like the baby is alive, but it won't eat. Oh, Lottie's messing with the baby. Oh, they're eating the baby, and then it all turns out to be a dream. Um, so yeah, I think that was like really one of the first times I was really fooled into thinking what I was seeing was true.
Yeah, in screenwriting class, we were definitely told that's a huge no-no. You don't do that. It's like that's misleading them, and it's like, well, is it the whole fucking point of what we're doing supposed to be misleading them? It's like, no, you can't make them sit there seem like they can't trust you. It's like some of the best movies ever made were ones where the audience is like, I can't feel like I can trust this guy. This guy tells me one thing, and then 5 scenes later, I guess like if you do it right, if you learn the rules and you do it right, and you know how to, do it, then yeah, you can. But other than that, you're definitely told, yeah, no, you don't do that. That's a big no-no. You never end on a we're going into a dream sequence and then we're going, and I'm all like, you know what? It's like there's a bunch of soap operas I remember that did shit like that too. But
Like the main one that I was aware of was like you can't end a film with it saying, "Oh, it was all a dream,"
yeah,
in that way. Yeah.
yeah, cuz like that's the ultimate, like, you know, kicking the balls you can ever do to your audience of, like I think the only time that type of a twist actually really worked, it was The Sixth Sense. But it wasn't so much of a dream, but it was more or less finding out just by these subtle things you see in acting, that if you actually go back and you see, it's like, oh yeah, they kind of talk like he's almost never there. To
Yeah.
find out, yes, Bruce Willis was dead all along, and that he, this little boy was the one that saw him. Makes sense. I see dead people. The one guy that's going to help him is a dead guy. But for this in television, you don't see it too much. At least in modern television, you don't see it too much. But
Just to ask, can you hear the chainsaw stuff in the back? I just want to make sure.
no, can you hear the bird in the background?
I don't think so. All right,
Okay,
we're good.
okay.
All right, I was just checking.
we're checking to sit there, see how good our sound our mic suppressors are with getting rid of the auditory background. So through all of this, Shauna learns that essentially the baby just did not survive, and a lot of the girls are feeling bad because just going through what they went through, a lot of them were definitely, for some reason, everyone was just looking forward to this baby. It felt like it was the only big great hope that they could have currently going. It's,
for sure.
oh my god, we can all be like surrogate mothers or sisters or aunts
I
to
mean,
Shauna's.
it was quite literally a sign of life, right? Like
Yeah,
it was a sense of hope, a sense of purpose that they've all lost.
yeah. And even a lot of them are all like, well, we need to hurry and get the fuck out of here soon because Shauna's gonna fucking have that baby when we only have a timetable. So as much as that puts on stress to them, it's the fact of the baby being born, and Shauna would sit there and think, oh my god, perfect moment. No, it's all been a hallucination, just because, you know, she's not on any painkillers or anything like that. You know, she's doing full, like, everything, like old school.
I think that kind of works with how, you know, like there's these details, like really would Coach Ben be alive with a disgusting leg chopped off, you know? There's like these elements of like fantasy versus reality, and that kind of goes into when the baby is like the reality is the baby is probably not going to survive. Shauna
Yeah.
doesn't have enough nutrients to feed herself, let alone a child.
And
Um,
they make note of that too.
yeah, exactly. And so half the team is like, "Oh, we're so excited for the baby." And I think Natalie's like, I don't think this baby's gonna be okay out here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how is the baby gonna be okay? And I think that just sort of throughout this timeline is butting heads against each other is just the loss of reality, the each one of them slowly going insane.
Yeah. And even then, like, even when Nat keeps telling herself that baby's not going to either live or it's not going to be healthy or anything, when we do find out that Shauna had dreamt this all, she wakes up and she's holding her baby, and it's like, no, he's alive. Like, you know, and trying to show everyone is fucking just breaking down just mentally. And Ben's already on this freaking starvation hallucination dream. You know,
Oh yeah.
he's on his own plane of
I mean,
existence.
yeah, they show tons of people going through that. I mean, Mari, she's kind of like a side character, not really that important. She keeps hallucinating this dripping sound, and
Yes.
she hallucinates blood dripping from the wall. So everyone is slowly losing it, in their own way.
I'm starting to wonder if Pet Girl is Mari. Dark hair, and 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 and, and if you keep hearing the
Yeah,
drip, 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 I'm thinking, well, wouldn't that be like a foreshadowing? Because I mean, when they did show Pit Girl and she got her throat sliced, drip, drip, you know, the blood was going down. So
yeah.
I'm like kind of like wondering, it's like, is the wilderness? And we'll get to this later about this theory, but is the wilderness actually uh kind of giving these people sort of like nods and everything of, this is how you're gonna die, you know?
Yeah.
We don't see it for every character, but I think like with some of these like specific ones, and all the YouTube analytical videos that talk about who is the pit girl, who is the pit girl, and I'm all like, yeah, that is a good question because there's not that many dark haired women, you
Am
know.
I
With,
the only one though that I don't really care who the pit girl is?
I think
Like
it's
it
more or less because
really,
it's the first visual that we get, so it's that first mystery and a, you know, a
yeah,
list of mysteries of like, we have gotten some of these mysteries solved, but that number one, that first image, it's very much important. It's like, why were we given this? Who is this? Is
yeah.
this part of the group? Is this some other tribe that's out there? You know, we'll, you
All
know,
right, that's a little far-fetched,
I
Gothic.
know, but
Let's
at the
be
same
real.
time, like, you know,
I
for,
mean, I think it's just the
you
same
tell me
way
hillbillies living
that
in the
you
Canadian wilderness can't be real? Like, you know, there could be the wrong turn mutants, like, you know, running around, and, you know, I wouldn't put it past
I
Hollywood.
I mean, I think in the same way that you wouldn't differentiate a rabbit from another. To them, this is prey. To
Yeah.
them, this is, I mean, in the quite literal sense, it's probably just an extra.
Yeah.
Like in the quite literal sense, it's probably not an important character. It's just a tool to just keep showing that they've done these awful things to
Yeah.
survive.
Just for the means of survive. And for Lottie, we will make Lottie's storyline here a little bit short because a lot of it is tied into Shauna. So that's why I didn't really kind of share Shauna's last bits and everything. But again, Lottie is trying to sit there and take over this baby, it seems. It seems to be not your baby, our baby. She keeps trying to have like this very possessive nature over Shauna's child. That pretty much leads to that after Shauna loses the baby, I believe it's like the next day afterwards when people are just silent in the cabin, and Misty apologizes for not being able to sit there and save this baby, that Shauna flat out knocks the shit out of freaking Misty first. And then Lottie's like, no, if you're going to take it out on someone, take it out on me and everything. And proceeds to try to martyr herself and takes one hell of an ass whipping and everything. To the point she's pissing blood, her face is all swollen. And for probably the second half, post Shauna's, um, birth of her child, freaking Lottie's on her back, swollen from the ass beating. But she's also telling Misty, if you guys cannot find food, I want to be the next sacrifice. Because she begins losing faith in herself that she cannot lead the Yellowjackets into survival. And it more or less, it kind of like, it'll tie into a couple of other stories that go into, which I'll save that more for Nat. But Lottie, essentially her whole thing is she tried to be the boss, she stepped on too many people's toes, and she got her ass wrecked by Shauna. That's pretty much Lottie's story here, and it's like, it's kind of like what happens when you play that crazed televangelist or just faith healer kind of person, even though
Mhm.
you're trying to do it to help people survive, and you finally pissed off the wrong person and you got your ass knocked. And that's essentially Lottie in a nutshell for this season in
Well, I think
1996.
just one more thing I would like to say about Lottie, and this will transition into Nat, is while she's healing, she says something to Misty where she says, "It like don't let my body go to waste. You know, we'll be
Yeah.
like snacky. Let me be your snacky." Basically. And Misty, like, they don't want that because Lottie is the leader. Lottie is the one who's like harnessing this entity to give them food, to give them shelter, everything like that. So they decide this is what starts the hunt. This is what starts
Mm-hmm.
the sacrifice based on a card pull of the
Yeah.
queen. And I think that's really important because Lottie is like losing that sense of leadership and wants to transfer it to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as she finds out that they did that without her knowing, she's she's not happy. She's like pissed about it because that's not what she wanted.
Yeah.
She wanted to sacrifice herself. She never wanted anyone else to be harmed. And
Yeah.
especially when she finds out who was killed eventually.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll actually skip Misty here, and we'll kind of throw Misty, because I guess you would sit to say Misty in 1996 is a bit of a subplot as well.
Yeah.
It's not the main driving direction, because really it's Lottie, Shauna, and Nat. But this one I have labeled it's both Nat and Travis because they come as a pair and everything. They've been like that ever since season one. They come as a pair. Both Natalie and Travis continue within the 2 months that had passed in season one. They're still hunting Javi, trying to look for him. Um, Travis does
Not
believe that
hunting Javi, but
looking
looking
for him,
for him.
searching for him, and everything. But like the way how they go through it, it almost seems like they're hunting a deer or whatever. It's like they go that deep to it of marking trees, trying to find these different locations. They were already working maps and everything, which I think the rest of the Yellowjackets later on in the season, when they were like marking maps, like especially when Ty and Van were looking at like, hey, why is Ty visiting these during nightfall? Why are they doing that? And then you get that symbol that keeps popping up. And I think they're using the same map. So I think somewhere along the lines, in between the 2 months, someone discovered the map that Nat and Travis were making, and they're like, "Oh, we can all use this," and so people just know it's just there. That's all what it is. Um, Nat believes that Javi is probably dead, and she kind of plants some evidence of Javi's death to kind of help ease Travis into thinking, I lost my father, which I didn't really kind of care, but it seemed like he kind of did a little bit. But now it's like, I lost my brother.
I think he was more so just being like an angsty teen. I don't think he like didn't care that he lost his father, but
Yeah.
yeah. Continue.
It was like his way of processing the grief. And even whenever Javi was going through grief, it was like a threat to him of, well, no, if I see my brother vulnerable, then I need to be vulnerable too. I don't want to be vulnerable. And that's just what he, being an angsty teen at his age, it's that vulnerability. And so, yeah, Natalie and Travis, they end up. They end up being found by Ty, if I believe so. I think Ty was the one that find him. Travis kind of starts feeling that Natalie placed that on purpose to get him to stop looking, and they kind of go their own separate ways. And for the life of me, I cannot remember what brings them back together and everything. But what ends up happening
I
is,
mean, because Nat sort of takes Javi in because Javi, who's the youngest, he's like sort of like he's the coach's son, so he's much younger, like I would say maybe 12. Um, Nat, after he's found, he doesn't speak at all. And
mm-hmm,
Nat seems to be the only one who's not forcing him to speak to kind of just like ease him in because he's probably gone, he's been gone for months during winter. Where has he been? And he seems to be really shook up about it. So yeah, I think that sort of healed them is I think Travis sort of understood why Nat did what she did and
mm-hmm,
also just sort of her nurturing behavior with his brother, I think is sort of what brought them back together.
yeah, and with that, like Javi is definitely um, kind of like in Nat's favor and everything. Like Javi will do anything for Nat. And so when we jump to them doing the card pulling after, Misty's like, we have to sit there and we have to find another sacrifice and everything, and I think she ends up trying to sit there and put it like in Lottie's words, which goes to show you just how manipulative Misty was starting to become, how
Yes.
cunning she was. And they start doing the pull draw thing, and I think they all had to go 2 rounds, or I think was that the adults that had to go
No,
to
that was the adults.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. But it was that round. Nat pulled the card, and with that, having it where everyone is starting to go feral. Travis, more or less in a returning the favor to Nat for getting Javi to speak and bringing him back in the fold. He gives her that small window of opportunity for Nat to just start running.
Mm-hmm.
And the other girls, they pin him down, which is very reminiscent of Doom's Coming. It's like these girls did not learn anything 2 months from now. They did the same shit to him. They pinned him and held the knife under his throat. And I'm all like, didn't you girls learn anything? No, you did not. Um, and Javi ends up catching up with Natalie, and they're gonna try to sit there and run to where Javi had been hiding and everything. But we don't know where that's been. But he knows a place. They go across the lake, which they thought was stable enough, but there are cracks going through, and Javi falls in. Nat tries to save him, but Misty pulls him away, and they allow Javi to freeze and drown. Travis wasn't there to sit there and see it, but he stayed there at the cabin, hoping that Nat got away. And then they end up finding out that essentially the wilderness took Javi instead of Nat.
And that's how they framed it too. Is like the wilderness chose Javi, but really they
They
refused to
chose.
save him.
Yeah.
They refused, and that was really the first turning point, I think. Not, it wasn't eating Jackie. It was killing Javi. They killed Javi. They did not like they were the reason he died.
Yeah.
Um, in many ways,
And he
but
was like, I
really
think, the
that
real
just
innocent in
purposeful.
this whole group. Like, it's not.
Exact, and he's also a kid,
Yeah.
and the fact that it was like killing a kid is, I mean,
And this is probably like
everything
the
they do.
the strongest point in some of the writing for season two, which season two does not have a lot of strong writing, but this easily goes back to when Shauna had the knife in her hand and she told Javi to run and everything on Doom's Coming. There's a lot of callbacks to that. There's a lot of callbacks that go back to Doom's Coming with how Travis is pinned down, just how a lot of shit goes. Um, and it's this is probably
I
like
think
the
that probably goes into why Javi didn't speak about where he was, because he's scared of these girls. He's
yeah, and
terrified,
if he ever had
and
to go
rightfully
run off
so.
again,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
yeah, he knew where to hide because they didn't know. Not even Travis knew because Travis, Ty, not even Thaisa knew because they just found him in the middle of the wilderness while he was
Well,
out.
she was asleep,
Yeah,
so she was Evil Ty, as we'll call her.
Yeah.
Um,
But
yeah,
they caught him like out like in the wilderness, not in his den in which that he was going
yeah.
to. But going into that, well, before we go into that, after Javi's death and everyone eats him, Travis takes a bite out of his heart to kind of have a piece of Javi in him, which to me it's all like, oh, I love it's so poetic, but he's gonna shit him out in like about a day or two. It's like his
I think
brother
it
is
was
not gonna
more
be
of
him.
like, okay, we're gonna eat Javi, but Travis, you have the first bite of the most important part of him.
Yeah,
I think it was more so of like, we know this is very traumatic for you, but you have to do it first for it to be right for us.
yeah.
Even though I'm sure that they would probably have done it anyway. But
I was waiting for Strings to
strings,
pop in
hello.
and everything. Hello, Strings. I hope you're doing well. I hope your travels have been safe. Um, and essentially, after the feast of Javi, Nat is chosen by Lottie to lead the Yellowjackets. She passes on that leadership role onto Nat, and Ben sees that. Ben doesn't like that and everything because this goes back to season one. Ben's always told Nat, "You're not like the others. You're a lot more
Mhm.
independent. You're just not like them." And then this right here just kind of felt like Nat's turn to the dark side, and you know, this kind of like has Ben feeling like now he can't trust anyone. I will travel never again unless I get to see Mitty. Oh, well, I guess you're not going to Houston then. Uh, but pulling back a little bit now onto my outline, we go into Misty. So Misty, along with Ben Scott, is a bit of our, I would sit there and say, subplots. We get that question that I asked last time of, will anyone find that broken box that was the black box that Misty destroyed? Well, throughout this season, she ends up befriending Crystal. They sing musicals together. They enjoy their time. It's their way of coping through having to do either some of the shit jobs or just getting through some tough stuff. Those two are like the forever bond that they can try to just keep each other going, um, until they decide to swap secrets. Um, and I think like one of them was I think like Crystal had to said that she shit in the piss bucket, and like it was an earlier callback, and it's like, oh dear lord. And Misty's all like, okay, well, you can't tell anyone, and she confessed that she broke the black box to her, um, and in doing so, because they were near the cliff where they were dumping the bathroom bucket, if you would sit there and say off that cliff, Misty's dark side starts coming out and starts saying, "You cannot do this. You cannot tell anyone whatsoever." And when Crystal's like, "Or else what?" and Misty's like, "I will kill you," but unintentionally, Crystal just plummets to her death. She falls off
Yeah,
the cliff.
she backs up
Yeah,
further enough. Yeah.
yeah. So it both. I guess you would say Misty killed her, but at the same time, it was more of just Misty's warning is what did most of the kill. Like Misty didn't physically do that. And this cliffside becomes a very big thing in this season too because Ben comes here as well, and I do believe I think there was another group of characters. Maybe it was Ty or Van that maybe came to this cliffside. This cliffside has some deeper meaning that I don't know what. We may sit there and see that in season three. Maybe that's how they'll do some of their future sacrifices. It's like, well, you can jump off this cliff or you can run and we'll chase you. It's like, you know, you never know. Um, but yeah, Misty ends up,
She saves Ben.
yeah, yeah, well, yeah. She says, "Ben, I'm sorry. I thought I heard talking." I was like, "Is that on my end?" And everything. Um, I think I'm starting.
In the same cliff that she basically killed Crystal. I She saved Ben because Ben was gonna jump off. He's gonna kill himself.
Yes, yeah. So like,
Which Strings was probably very happy to see and was waiting for him to just
I feel
jump
like
on down.
I feel like Strings has like a list of characters on Yellowjackets that she's like, I hope they die. I hope they die. I hope they die. Because like I've like
Yeah.
noticed this is like God, you got to pick one guy or one person every season that you just want to see him. I do love easy victims. Oh, okay. Welcome in, Hexhound. How are you doing? Um, so to wrap up Misty's stuff, Misty towards the end she blames herself because of the mindset that she was in. That she believes she was the reason that Shauna's baby died upon death, birth, and everything. When, in all honesty, I think there was like a whole bunch of other things. She wasn't eating enough, uh, did not have the proper care and the proper facilities to do all this. A lot of them did not know what they were doing. Misty was the only qualified one, and I think they went through two other people after Misty froze up the first time. Um, so there was,
Right, because this was right after she killed Crystal,
yeah,
where she was like expected to deliver this baby.
yeah,
Um, yeah. So I think, I mean, as much as you want to call Misty a crazy bitch, that was her first quote unquote murder, you know.
yeah,
I mean, that would fuck up anybody.
yeah.
So
But like
yeah,
at the same time, I don't really think that she's not your normal form of a psychopath that the moment that they like I watched this person drop and die, it wasn't like a rush of emotions. Like no, it was like a very like oh my god, like my heart, everything. And so like there's still a lot of humanity in Misty and everything, but I think this is when she kind of starts
at
learning
this
that
point.
yes, at this point and everything. When you look at her as an adult, it's like she's seen some shit, but I still love the actress that plays her because she plays her so well. Um, but you did mention Misty saving Ben Scott, so we'll quickly wrap up in 1996 because we're about 40 minutes into this and we're still in 1996. So we may have to kind of really go through the reunion stuff, which
I think we hit all of the major points.
yeah, like we're trying to hit
Yeah.
the major points and we're not trying to leave too much out, but there's an awful lot left out because we have a short time here. Um, but Ben Scott, he after seeing Jackie get eaten, he goes on his own trip, his own plane of existence, his own starvation hallucinations. We start to learn a little bit more about his relationship with Paul, what happened to Paul, and he starts having like these what if hallucinations of, oh, like what if I did not get on this plane? What if I was with Paul? And those kind of like hop in and out and everything because even sometimes they're like, well, wait, is this real or is this the made up fantasy part? Because it jumps around a lot, very
Yeah.
much like the Shauna stuff does. And essentially, Ben tries to get up the courage after clean shaven, taking care of himself, that he was going to jump off the cliff because he just did not want to live. He has one leg, he can't survive on his own out here just yet. Um,
He's
but
surrounded by a bunch of crazy ass women. So
and
yeah.
and one angsty teen guy and everything, who could probably kick his ass in an ass whipping contest if they just had said, Travis, take care of the one legged man, and he would probably be like, yeah, I'm gonna get my ass beat. Women,
Women,
am
am
I
I
right?
right?
But yeah, Ben tries to kill himself and everything, but Misty stops him. I feel like this was Misty's own personal thing of since she failed Crystal, this was supposed to be her
Yes.
thing. But of course, she doesn't do a manipulation kind of thing of I'll tell him that you try to do
Well, that's what
did
it
did
was at
this. And,
first, and he was like, fine, tell him I'm gay. I don't care, because he was kind of like, she was threatening him with like, oh, if you kill yourself, I'm gonna like slander your name.
yeah,
And it turned into her begging, which you never really see from Missy.
yeah,
She's kind of like this like crazy neurotic sort of character, and she's like begging, like, please don't have another, like, he thinks she's referring to the baby, but she's referring to Crystal when she says, I don't want another life on my hands.
yeah.
um yeah.
But like also too, kind of like looking at what it was. She kind of went through a bit of the same thing when we start looking at the adult when she's trying to look for Nat, adult Nat, and everything, and adult Nat she's just one of those easy people that she can cut off communication and go do her own thing.
Mhm.
And Misty can't stand that because Misty kind of feels like she needs to have some of the power and the control in the area, but she wants to at least have some form of a communication line out there to reach out to someone because she's a very lonely person. Even as an adult, she's super, super lonely. I mean, she has a parrot named Caligula. Um,
Yeah.
it goes to show you just how lonely she is and everything. They didn't throw the typical trope of the crazy woman with the cat. No, they gave her a bird instead. Um,
Which
but Ben,
is debatably crazier.
yes, but Ben did find where Javi was resting. He found like this little spot that there was no snow at. It was kind of kept warm. Uh, and he did try to lure Nat to there to be there, but Nat decided not to join him. Um, and I think I okay. So yeah, I did not have the finale for that, but the cabin does burn down towards the end of everything in 1996. The cabin burns down. We
And it's
get
implied that Ben did it, but you don't
yes,
really see him do it. You just see him have matches and kind of look at, this is after he saw Javi was killed.
yeah,
And even Nat, who he was close with, was like, um, I'm the worst of them, basically, is what she said. And
yeah,
so he wants them, probably he's probably thinking it's for the best that
yeah.
maybe
It's like
these
because if
demon
these kids get
childs.
if these kids get
He said,
found and
"Fuck them
everything,
kids," basically. Yeah,
if these kids
he
are
didn't want
found
to.
and brought back into like
Yeah,
modern life, it's probably like a whole group of serial killers. It's your class of 1999 all over again. Um, I guess like that's how it would take it and everything. He was like, I'm already doing the world a favor. I'm trying to take him out and
yeah.
everything, and he's gonna try to survive on his own. But there is one interesting piece before all this fire stuff happens. Shauna is writing down in her journal, why wasn't it me that took that leadership? Why was it Nat? So it already instills that there is some form of jealousy. And it's like, well, yeah, sure, why not? You beat the shit out of the fucking ringleader. Why weren't you given the crown instead of the one that was meant to be sacrificed and allowed Javi to die? But at the same time, you're the same woman that you know bared the knife, was on drugs, and told him to run as if you were gonna fucking flay his ass.
I think Shauna also felt that because with her baby gone, she lost a sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think pretty much everybody would have liked that role, but because Lottie was like, okay, this is what's gonna happen now, everyone kind of just followed through with it.
Yeah, and I wonder how that's gonna pan out for season 3 because it's like, is Shauna like? I still feel like Ty, even in season 1, Ty was still trying to feign for some type of leadership role. So I'm gonna kind of start wondering if maybe Ty and Shauna are gonna try to form some type of alliance, and that something will have to go down to the point where Nat is gonna have to like put her foot down and be like, you can try to rebel all you like, but you will be exiled just like Jackie was, and you'll probably wind up like Jackie, and we'll eat you because you guys froze out here, or probably by what you told me, season 3 will be spring. Um, who knows what could be out there? Wolves, like what got Van. It's like if we
Mhm.
don't eat you, the wolves will, and everything. And so I think like that's probably something that Nat and Van could probably put more in line and everything. And with Travis being Nat's, partner and everything, that's like second in command. You don't want to piss him off because I
Mhm.
kind of feel like now since he has nothing left to kind of like live outside of Nat, he'll probably do anything and everything to make sure Nat lives. And
Yeah.
being an
It probably
NC,
explains why they became so codependent as
yes,
adults. Yeah.
yes. So moving on to reunion part deux. I'm sorry, I fucking suck at French and everything. We're in 2021. We're in the modern day, and the investigation that Adam Marcus is still coming in. I feel like this was a storyline. It's like, oh my god, why did it last the entire season? Um, it kind of felt like it dragged in and out. Shauna and her family are still being investigated. Jeff and Shauna's relationship is put to the test. They end up fucking in front of a mural that Adam drew, like a bunch of nudes of Shauna, and Jeff's like, "Did you pose for him?" It's like, "No, I never did," and everything. And yeah, you get like that really kind of weird moment of like, how are you supposed to be hard for your wife when you're seeing the artwork of some other dude that's drawing your wife, you know, like not
Yeah.
of consent, because even she didn't even know of this. Um,
I mean, it was they had stale sex life before
yeah,
this. So I think really it's the only thing that rejuvenated it, you know.
and I think that because they did have sex towards the end of season 1. Can't relate. Oh my god. Oh my god, strings. I think even towards season 1, I think Shauna and her husband like finally banged it out. But like it felt like it needed like all these thrills and everything, like the affair and everything, and then the whole blackmailing and everything that even goes on. It's like it's it seems like Shauna is just in the
It's
salty.
funny it's actually having the opposite effect because Shauna did all these things to kind of hide from even with finding out about Jeff being the one who blackmailed her and the other women.
Yeah,
Um, she was hiding her whole past from him
yeah,
before he went and read the journals. Um, so it's kind of funny it had the opposite effect of like bringing them closer, and even with with their daughter, bringing her closer too.
yeah. But they'll go through, and we'll talk about that towards the end of Shauna's thing. There is a way how each family reacts to it. It seemed like it worked, but then now it kind of stopped being that funness. It felt like something that what would last long for a really good high, and then Jeff is like already like, I can't fucking do this, like.
I mean, it's sort of that competing fantasy versus reality, right? Like
Yeah,
you have like this fantasy like, oh, my wife is badass and now she's hot and now we have sex. But then it's the consequences of those actions. It's, the police getting involved.
yeah,
It's real life hitting them. That makes
this isn't
him
just some
kind
simple
of
affair
come
now.
to
This is
reality.
hiding a murder. Welcome in, Legacy Bookish. Thank you so much again for the raid. We are in the middle of our couch potato. Thank you, Tiny Lord Commander, for the follow. We're in the middle of talking Yellowjackets season 2. We are covering the modern day storyline of what these characters are. Do feel free to lurk and enjoy the show. Thank you so much again for the raid. I really hope that you enjoyed. I think you're book reading because I was lurking in yours and everything. But yeah, we're gonna quickly get back here to the show and everything. But I want to sit there and let you know that I do appreciate your raid and you being here. I hope you enjoy it. I'll ask you
Hey everyone.
right after the show and everything. I will ask you everything about it if you stick around long enough. But yeah, so the affair thing, all the stuff is going out. Shauna begins acting out, which I do gotta sit there and say I enjoyed the scene where Shauna goes to the chop shop and everything, where she follows that and she actually freaks out the chop shop owner dude, and she's like enjoying it a little bit, which kind of makes me wonder. All right, lost child, lost best friend, high on shrooms. What else happened out there in that wilderness that even now she enjoys inflicting fear into others? You know, um,
Mhm.
it's that huge high, of doing that, and
Hi Rusty.
she obviously enjoys it, but at the same time, it keeps putting her in the line of the police, where Callie is dating this undercover cop, and then even she starts to kind of do a little bit of um
Hi
of
Puzzle.
like Kelly begins acting out like her mother, and it's like she starts having it where, oh, I'm gonna sleep with this guy, oh, he's an undercover cop, well, I'll just sit there and lie and sit there and say that he touched me, he slept with me to get the cops off, and it doesn't work and everything, and so it feels like.
Which honestly, if we're being real, probably he would be suspended at least for going off book to you know, pursue and buy her drinks and all
Yeah,
of that. So
because like, I mean, the way how this kind of went, even Kevin was telling him, you have to watch out with what you're doing. It's like you're walking a thin red line, and what makes it even worse is since they're being partners, that can easily just completely fuck them up to begin with. Thank you so much again for the follow, MTGHM. That is a mouthful for only 5 characters. Uh, that's what she said. I'm so sorry.
it doesn't even
um,
make sense, but I'll
huh?
take it.
What?
Doesn't really make sense, but I'll take it.
It's a mouthful for 5 characters.
Okay.
Never mind. No. We'll pass through that one and everything. But yeah, due to Shauna's behavior and the way how everything is going on with the police, where pretty much it makes it really look like Shauna and Jeff can both go to prison, with possibly their daughter going in since she lied to an officer and everything. Jeff ends up answering a call from Shauna that I believe was Ty. No, it was Misty that did the call in, and he ends up learning about Lottie's wellness retreat.
No, it was Ty.
It was Ty. Okay.
Hmm.
Again, it's been a while. And so he decides, you know what? If I'm going to sit there and make sure that my wife's okay, I'm sending her to this retreat. And so Jeff kind of starts taking a little bit of control, and it's like, oh, I kind of like this. Like, you're just not fucking around the bush anymore. It's like you're kind of taking a little bit more control of this situation now, Jeff. Where were those balls earlier? Um, and Jeff ends up sending her here. She goes there willingly. Uh, they make her take care of a goat, and even then, like, they kind of like make her like wonder, like, what are you gonna do? Make me take care of this goat all day and then have me slit its throat at the end for food? You know, which kind of goes back a little bit of just how she kind of felt like how her whole pregnancy kind of went. You know, she carried this all long enough. Just for what? Are we gonna eat this thing now? And it's like, oh shit! All right, yeah, those scars are coming out pretty deep, and uh, I'm trying to sit there and figure out how to segue into this. They pretty much do like a lot of bonding, and they did find out that uh, Jeff was the blackmailer the entire time, and everyone's like, "What the fuck, Shauna?" and everything, and they're like, you know, why did you lie to us and everything, and it's like I feel like everyone at this point is lying to each other.
I mean, yeah, I think
Yeah,
Shauna for sure, but
I think Shauna's getting better at it. You know, for
I think it's to more protect her family because, and she says in that moment, like, I didn't tell you because you would have killed Jeff. Because if your husband did it or your wife did it, I would have killed them.
yeah, and everything,
So, I mean, I think she had a point.
And I mean, I still think that when we go back to Adam towards the end of season 1, I still think that she had a little bit of her that she wanted to kill him. Like that was all intentional, even though it was played very much well as like an accident. I think deep down she probably wanted to do it, and I felt like this season kind of more showed that out there. You know, with like, you know what, she maybe is
I
probably
don't think
willing to
she wanted
shoot.
to kill him for the purpose of killing him. I think it was to protect herself and to
Yeah,
protect her family. And
yeah.
she viewed him as a threat that would get in between that. So yeah, I don't yeah.
I That's like a different ways you can look at it and everything. I To me, I sit there and feel like she's a killer. She has that killer's instinct, and I think with that year gap of how long it's been since then, for one, I feel like this is just something of I again side with Mitty. Of course you do, strings. Thank you so much. Um, but I I just feel like she really does enjoy it, and it kind of feels like it comes out in Cali because as we get closer towards the end of the season, it's Shauna's story. Um, with the Yellowjackets all returning, it's Van, Ty, Misty, Lottie, Nat, and Shauna. So that's six, right? Yeah, that's six. I don't know this subject, but I'll side with Gothic then. Oh, thank you so much, Jelly, for
Go
evening
ahead.
up.
Can you go ahead and ban that person? That'd be great.
Oh
Thanks.
my god, I can't ban my jelly bean. I love jelly. Um, but the Yellow Jackets end up taking part into another hunt, in which this time they did like the double swap thing because no one pulled out the queen card, and I thought it was weird that they designed that card to make it look like the same one that they had to begin with. Because I think it was Nat. I think Nat designed it just like it. I was like, what the fuck? It was like, this is a weird case of nostalgia. Uh, um, Sorry, I was responding back to Rusty. But yeah, it's like the weirdest case of nostalgia that Nat's like, all right, well, let's design the card to make the card look the way it was. And it's like, what the fuck? You know, it's like, for someone that's healing, it's doesn't seem like a healing mechanism. That feels
I mean,
like,
and we'll kind of go into this, but I mean, it seemed intentional.
yeah,
Um, where Lottie is sort of she's schizophrenic and she's going crazy at this point. And everybody else is like, oh, let's like set it up to like give in to her idea of like let's do a hunt and sacrifice someone in the like of the adults. Um, but as they're preparing it, doling the knives, taking out all the queens of the deck, Natalie secretly like keeps one in there. Um, you know, everyone else besides Shauna is like playing into it too much, and they get
yeah.
sort of that primal go back to their nature kind of thing.
And yeah, and it's like, how do I it felt like for what plan that they were originally going to do with Shauna, Van, and Ty, where they were going to have the Nut House come pick up Lottie because they kind of know Lottie's lost her fucking marbles. um, it completely backfired on Shauna, and it was Ty and it was Van that talked Ty out of it. And it's more or less it's this talk that we'll get in later about Van that they have to do what they're doing if we're all going to have a normal life again and everything. And so it kind of felt like whatever plan that Shauna had, it backfired on her. And yeah, it did not work in her favor. Shauna ends up being hunted by the remaining of the Yellowjackets until Callie shows up, and then later Lisa. Callie ends up putting a bullet in Lottie's arm, and yeah, like the hunt kind of gets stopped and well, she puts a bullet in the arm. There's still something we're gonna add to later, but that's essentially kind of what also just halts the hunt. But something else happens. Um, Shauna and her family are safe. Uh, this goes into Misty's whole storyline with her and Walter, where Walter essentially helps them get rid of the cops by killing Kevin. I think that should not have been Kevin. I think that should have been Jay that died, but it also
I
makes
mean,
sense of what Jay
I
did.
wish it wasn't Kevin because he's hot, but
Well,
we have our reasons.
Kevin also too didn't have. It's like Javi. It's like he was innocent. He didn't. He had his relationship with Nat and everything, and we really kind of thought, oh my god, this is gonna be Nat's happy ending, and then Nat's like, no, like it's never gonna be like that. You wish death upon people, Gothic. Strings. We don't want to talk about that.
Well, Jay Caruso wasn't hot, so I wish death upon him as well.
Yeah, and everything, but also too, it made sense of okay, it's this crooked cop that's trying to just get ahead, and I even feel like maybe he was gonna try to gun for maybe Kevin's position as well on the force because he was. I don't think like he was a brand new like he was a traffic cop, but it was more of like he just wants to jump up on the ranks and he wants to be like the cowboy that comes in and shoots shit up and ooh everyone's gonna like
Rusty,
me.
I would not kill you or wish death upon you.
Oh my god. But yeah, the family is safe. Shauna's family is safe, but while Lottie is being sent away to the asylum, there is a shot on Callie where maybe it seemed like there's something not all right with Callie. It seemed like maybe whatever happened tonight, she enjoyed it a little bit. Maybe there's a little bit more of what Shauna and everything went through, and that it kind of pulled over into Callie, and that this whole
I think
season,
it's sort of that theme of like generational trauma and does the poison drip through? Is it sort of nature for you to be like the previous? That
yeah,
sort of thing.
which I mean, like it kind of does make sense because if they act that way and you're watching their behavior and everything, you would probably adopt some of that. I think like we all adopt certain things from our parents. Maybe not everything, but some things, and some of those are good, some of those are bad. It's especially if they're learning habits. Lottie's like a really really quick one in this storyline. She is more or less like the thread that pulls everyone together in this. She seems like she has her head on straight and everything as like an adult. She's doing really good. She's seeking therapy as she's doing this wellness retreat thing. And there was someone I saw do a video, and they're like, "How can you run a wellness retreat but yet seek therapy?" I was like, "Well, there's therapists that seek therapists too. It's like you can only listen to so much bullshit and so many people's problems before you're over here. It's like, look, even I need a therapist from the shit that I'm hearing. It's like I gotta let my shit out too." Um, she ends up being the one that sent her people to watch Natalie, and then they ended up kidnapping her towards the end of season 1, which was the best cliffhanger for here. And then when it kind of comes here, I was hoping, especially the way how it opened up the wellness retreat, it's like, what kind of Wicker Man shit is this? I'm expecting someone to come out dressed as a bear and everything, and Nicolas Cage screaming about, not the bees. Um, but
I'm
it's
not
like a
familiar with the reference, but
okay,
that's
okay,
okay.
well, yeah. But it's like a nice, like quaint little place. It's just where people come and they come here on their own volition, and they just do their best to get better. And I really really kind of like enjoy, like it kind of broke a trope of, oh, they're cultists, and even then they, Van makes a joke as like, if I start seeing Kool-Aid getting made, I'm getting out of here, and it's like, oh, I kind of like this humor and everything, but I also like that they're subjecting the trope, and it's not really all that vilifying. It's just people wanting to seek help, and they're doing it through this form of like a colony, which I
Which is
guess in
ironic because then Lottie goes on to be like, let's sacrifice someone with poison tea.
yeah, you know,
But yeah,
but she doesn't do it to her own people, but she keeps it within that circle of the Yellowjackets and everything. But that's when she starts losing her shit. She starts telling Nat about, you know, when she saw Travis and everything, and that when he died, she saw Laura Lee there, but it was not Laura Lee. You know, and we start seeing as this going through, and she's attracting all these Yellow Jacket members back. She's losing control of her own psyche. She's seeing things. She's hallucinating. Um, there
Rusty, I
was,
feel like you would like it.
yeah, definitely
That's all I
check it
say.
out. Definitely check it out, Rusty. I would sit there and say you would. This is a for how this season ended. This is still, I think, like a really really good series. It's a very very well put together. Season 2 has some critiques of mine that are far and few from season 1, but like it's super heavy in this. But we'll get to that once we wrap up everyone's story about like just the writing. Um, but yeah, Lottie starts seeing the Antler Queen, which I think this is the season where they gave it the title, right? I know you see her in the first season.
I mean, they never actually say Antler Queen, but it's sort of been a title that the community has given.
Okay, okay, because like
Yeah.
yeah, it's like she keeps seeing her, and that's when a lot of people start thinking, well, that must be her. But yet it seems like it gets passed on to Nat, so maybe that's who she's been seeing as Nat, which makes sense. Nat was the first one, so what if that activated some trauma? What happens out there? Um, but yeah, Lottie goes. She tries to play Russian roulette with a poisonous drink, and then that leads into the hunt. She gets shot by Callie, and she pretty much gets sent away to the asylum. It seems like in the show like it's a whole lot, but it actually really isn't when you break it down. Like she's just the person that pulls everyone else together. That's all she is. She's the Mike Hamlin. I think that's the character's name from It, where he's like the dude that brought everyone back to the town. That's pretty much just what Lottie plays. I don't know if you've seen It, so no. Okay, well that's
I
another
have.
reference. Oh, you have? Okay, so then you know Mike, right? He was the black kid.
Yeah.
Okay, okay,
I
okay.
was just letting you have the sound bite if you needed
Oh,
it.
no,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you. And then our last character that we are going to cover here, because we did originally have Nat and Ty on here, but like we had to kind of cut them because they were more of an excess. As much as Nat is very much key in 1996, this could kind of get poured into like Misty's stuff with Nat, um, because you know Nat dies at the end of the season and everything, and
Nat is killed at the end of the season, we should say.
yeah, it's killed and everything, and we'll get into that with the Misty story where she's searching for Natalie and she ends up meeting citizen detective Walter, played by Elijah Wood. Absolutely love this character. He's like the best quirky character, and there's a lot that I really really want to sit there and know about this guy, especially during the season whenever he tells Misty that every Sherlock Holmes needs a Moriarty, which goes on to make me think if later on if maybe he is using um if he's using Misty for certain things and that he will be a villain in season 3. You know, I'm here for it. Bring him in as the good guy. He's helping the heroes out, only to maybe hold some leverage against them and everything, and he's super super smart about it. And why not? Because Misty collapses you know, when she gets here to the retreat and everything, and she
As
sit
long
there.
as he doesn't die because he's the hottest of all.
Oh
So,
my, that's debatable. Um, I'm a bit of a Samwise Gamgee
no.
fan than a Frodo fan. Um, but kind of getting through Misty stuff,
Okay.
she definitely bonds with him at first, but after a while, we kind of get like a little bit of how Shauna and Adam were and everything, where it's like you're only with me because of the history pass, and he's like, I don't really care about your history, you know. And you kind of get that, but this relationship didn't end with blood, you know, quote unquote. Um, Walter helps Shauna's family out with killing Kevin and all them. And he's so eager about it. He's so happy. He's like, "Oh my god, I'm helping out! Like, you know, I'm one of the team almost." Um, and when Misty is taking place with the hunt, and Lisa comes out with the gun. So this is our second person that comes in that Nat kind of helped
She's
with.
really not that important.
She's
So, yeah.
she's not that important, but she does kind of help Nat learn about forgiveness, Like that was really her only part in this was she was just like a spinoff character for Nat. She was supposed to be like that reflection of Natalie's childhood. But when she did hold up the gun and Nat told her that there's nothing to be alarmed here and everything, she knows nothing about this hunt as well as most of the people. And Misty attempts to sideline her and stab her with something in the pen. It was something that caused an overdose. Uh,
I think it was similar to what she killed the other woman in season
oh,
one with,
with
sort of
the
just like
cigarettes.
a mix of a concoction of drugs that would make it look like a overdose
Thank you,
instead of,
Ki-
thing.
Thank you, Kiwi uses Twitch for the follow. Um, but yeah, we get to it where she's about to attack Lisa, but Nat takes the brunt, and Nat is the one that's injected with this poison that she is overdosed on, and Misty is like in complete shambles, which it goes and it repeats back to Misty losing Crystal, um, and it kind of goes back also to Nat cheating death with the wilderness when Javi died instead of her. So there's a lot of tying this up, and like I really hated this. I love Juliette Lewis. I did not want her to die, and
I
it
mean, I
had
think mostly you only hate it because you didn't want Juliette Lewis to be off of the show, but yeah.
I love her so much. Misty's life is all left in shambles, and it makes me wonder what is there left in season 3. Where can we go to in season 3? Because Nat's dead. Nat's probably really been like the leading cause for why everyone even got back together to begin with. Cancel Gothic. Thank you, Jelly.
Can I just say strings? The only load that I would like to get from any guy is Elijah Wood. That is all.
Oh my god. So yeah, with Nat gone, like I feel like the person that kind of like that kind of like helped get everyone back together. Big AO, thank you. It's like really, what is there left? Shauna and them are hopefully safe from the family. Um, Misty's broken, and I mean because she killed her best friend. How is Walter going to handle that? Where is Walter going to figure out in all this? Lottie's going to the asylum. There was the belief that with there being a sacrifice that Thaisa will not have to sleepwalk anymore, so that evil persona is put to sleep, and Van's cancer will go into remission. So really, there is no cliffhanger for this, like season 1. So
I think that's a fault of it for sure. I'm sure you were about to touch on this, but
yeah.
it was wrapped up way too nicely. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that was just sort of a writing thing. They will really have to bring in some big guns for season 3 to make this all worth it. Because
Yeah.
we spent so much about the Adam Martin subplot that and then just kind of got cut and like, oh, that's all fixed now. So I think that's sort of a cop out sometimes. So they're really gonna have to bring something big next season to make it as thrilling as it used to be.
And it can be another like, oh, this is another surviving member of the Yellowjackets. It's like, no, like,
The only way I would be okay with that is if Coach Ben is still alive. And I think that would just really be the only way to, this is the one person that could ruin their lives. I think that's really
okay,
the only thing that's left in the adult timeline is if there's another threat to what they have
gone
took
through.
so time to cover up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Strings? I really hope that Ben Scott, survives just to spite you, because we love spiting people here. There are some final thoughts. I will cut my theory time off um, for the sake of time, just for these questions. These are all labeled underneath what will season 3 bring. I did ask you before recording, has Shauna been our antagonist the entire time?
I mean, I guess I think there's things that really don't point to that personally. She's the only one that is, the straight man to every crazy person. Everyone else, even though she's quite literally insane too, she kills people and everything like that. She's not perfect. She's not sane in the slightest. But she's the only one that sort of has a way of blending those realities. I think everyone else is like either suppressing or, you know, have that nature to go back into like that primal, killing sense. But I think Shauna's actually the only one that I think she's a protagonist. I don't think she's an antagonist.
Okay. Well, I definitely sit there and feel like in this season, I felt like Nat was the protagonist. Like, there's multiple protagonists in this. It's an ensemble, but we could see some type of villainous turn maybe. What do you think will happen with Misty now?
I think the only thing left for that, thank you, Strings, um, is because now her and Walter are together. I think that that's sort of been implied is that now they're dating.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, there's only one way that, I mean, not one way, but I mean, when you put two murderers together, there's sort of only either, one of them has to go, basically.
Yeah. You
I'd
think
rather
it'll
it,
be like a
I
Mr.
guess
and
I'd
Mrs.
rather
Smith?
it be, yeah, exactly. That's a good comparison.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I
But what
could.
do you think? I mean, you have
Well,
no reply to my theories, so
like I mean, when he tells her sometimes we need a Moriarty to someone's Sherlock, and to me, it's like who says that without having some hint that maybe they could go against this person somewhere in the future. And I mean, it kind of almost felt like that for like a bit whenever he left because it felt like Misty didn't need him and everything. And I was like, okay. And then like all this information tip, and it's all like, has Walter been tipping the cops off with all this information? Like, that's what I was thinking at first. Is like, is Walter the one tipping him off and everything? I was like, he likes solving these and everything. And so what if he finds another citizen detective on here that is trying to cover up a murder while also trying to cover up all this other shit, and to him that's going to be the ultimate mystery to solve. um Speaking of Moriarty, I would take a load from Andrew Scott too. Oh my god, strings. um
me
but
too.
yeah, like I really don't know what's going to happen to Misty. I definitely feel like she's definitely going to be a recluse.
I do think we'll get a total vibe shift from her.
Yeah.
She was such a like, kind of neurotic, bubbly person. Um, but now that I think now she is really gonna have to face all the things she's done. I think really she was the most that was like suppressing it,
Mm-hmm.
um, and trying to like pretend that everything is okay, really. I think she's really gonna have to really face those emotions in the next season.
Yeah, because it felt like everyone else in the modern timeline of the Yellowjackets, it felt like Nat was probably really the only one. Even though at first she didn't want to, she was the only one that gave Missy the time of day. Ty kept shoving her off. Shauna's like really Misty, and it's like no one really wanted anything to do with her, but Nat was there. Now that's gone. It's yeah, I really have like no clue. I would definitely sit there and maybe think that Misty would. I don't know what Moriarty means, but same. Uh, Professor Moriarty was the arch nemesis to Sherlock Holmes. That anything that Moriarty was trying to do to get some place of power, Sherlock Holmes would stop him. He would solve whatever political murder or mystery or whatever that Moriarty tried to do to claim some type of place of power. Uh, Sherlock was always there to stop him. So that's pretty much it. It's like I'm like
Are
every
you sure he
Batman needs a
didn't say
Joker.
Watson?
I'm pretty sure he said Moriarty because I'm pretty sure I think
Okay.
I've actually heard Andrew Scott play Moriarty in the BBC Sherlock series. He's hot. I don't remember him too much in that because I didn't even finish the Sherlock series. After season one, I was bored. I'm sorry, strings and everything. Maybe I'll rewatch that to fix that.
You
Um,
could just look up a picture of Andrew Scott and be
okay, okay.
satisfied that way. Yeah.
Will Thaisa and Van be an official couple in the modern timeline, with Ty abandoning her place in New Jersey?
I think my theory is that Van's cancer will be gone because they sacrificed Nat. Um, I think it will be purely a coincidence. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I think she will believe it's the wilderness supernatural force. Um, I think Ty has some things to do first.
Like a
She
divorce.
has a wife
Yeah,
that
like
is currently in a coma. By the way, to everyone who has not understand anything. Yeah. So yeah.
okay, okay. Will we see?
What do you think?
What do I think? I truly do believe that. I mean, since they already kind of wrote off like this whole like, oh, like you're supposed to be like a New Jersey senator now, and then she goes off on this adventure, hitchhikes to go see Van in Pennsylvania. I think that's where Van moved. Everything because Van was working at Van owns a video store, which is already suffering business, and with Ty being, I think she was a real estate lawyer or something like that. I forgot what specific part of the division of lawyer that she was in. Like she was like already mentioning, it's like you can't make the payments. You're cancer, all this other stuff. I actually do think that she would probably leave her whole family behind. Uh, she would leave it behind and everything, and she would probably.
I think she would leave her son though. She
I
has a
think I think
very
she would. I mean, like really, as much as she cares
she
for
has a
him,
very strong
she
connection.
doesn't have that strong of a relationship with them. You know,
Leaving your wife is easier than leaving your
yeah,
child, I would
yeah.
say.
I mean, they could easily sit there and still have it where the son came to like visit from time to time, and everything. Or maybe since the wife is still in a coma, she'll probably still be in there for quite some time. I don't think she's going to come out there anytime soon. So there could,
The shitty writing way would there's just that the
yeah,
wife would die.
but because if
And then Van takes in that second mother role.
yeah, and
Yeah.
what was it? Uh yeah, Van taking over the mother role. I could see that, and then I could sit there and see with how they believe in the wilderness and all this other stuff. They could definitely be imprinting that on him of like the wilderness always needs a sacrifice when it is needed and everything. And maybe whenever the mom comes out of a coma, she was like, "What the fuck are you feeding our child? Why are you telling him all this?" Um, but um, yeah. Final
Honest,
question.
I notice you. You
Yeah,
are seen.
we're in the middle of doing this, and we're on a crunch time, so we can't stop everything and follow. Which Twitch streamer would you guys sacrifice first? You guys would probably do me. You probably sacrifice me first.
I feel like you got some juicy arm meat.
Thank you. I guess. I don't know
You're
how I feel
welcome.
about that. Our final question is: will we see Lottie again?
I think it would be stupid to just take her out.
Like send her to the asylum and that's it? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think she'll still be around. I don't think she'll be completely left out.
do you think like maybe then she could fit like a Hannibal Lecter role of like she's in there, she can't really leave, but maybe
I
Ty
think
and
they'll
Van
visit
will visit?
her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or it will be sort of that animalistic kind of switches off, like, oh, it's a full moon, if you want to say. And hi Stevie, hi Knox.
I like how Stevie's
Um,
like my calves are off limits and it's like, well, you definitely know now everyone's gonna go out to your calves, man. They want that meat.
Happy birthday to your son, Knox.
Happy birthday, happy birthday.
What was he saying? Oh, so I think it will be like they could break her out or something if they feel like if that sort of nature primal instinct kind of kicks in and oh, we gotta do the ritual or whatever.
I would love to sit there and see that where maybe Van has allowed that dark side of Ty to like Ty. We need to break Lottie out. We need to do this and everything. And because I'm wondering if they ever tie this up, would they wrap up the modern day timeline with with them actually going back out into the wilderness, trying to find that same place in which they were at in the Canadian thing? Because I mean, like even where Lottie's retreat is, it kind of mimicked a little bit of what they had. It wasn't everything, but like there's a giant lake, there's a big cabin.
Mm-hmm.
It mimicked a little bit of that. So I'm pretty sure for her, subconsciously having all of this, Um, you know, I would sacrifice Gothic. You bet you would. But uh, it already kind of sit there feels like if they do break her out, chances are they'd be like, okay, the wellness retreat is not safe enough to send her back because obviously they're going to look there first. Is like they're probably going to sit there and have her go out back to the wilderness again. Um, I feel like that's probably going to be like the only safe way for one to hide her out to, and for a second, it kind of makes sense if they whenever they wrap this up, it's like they have to go out in the wilderness, and Shauna and all them are all going to have to go out there, and they're going to have to face whatever they faced back there in 1996 and 1997. They're going to have to go face that, you know, right then and there, and yeah, that's pretty much kind of like what I have to it.
Well, what my question for you
Uh huh.
is is there a supernatural part of this, or is it all just them?
Okay, so this is going into theory time. Theory time. So I have a theory for it, but also I have a counter for it, mostly because of the writing. The wilderness is real, but preys on the Yellowjackets' trauma to keep them under its control, similar to how possession works in The Exorcist 3. The supernatural has a strong grip on characters due to their personal issues. Folks, if you guys have ever seen The Exorcist 3, it pretty much kind of made it sit there seem like people that are in mental asylums and everything that don't really have a strong mental grasp on anything, that they are susceptible to possessions. They are easy to be possessed by demons. Um, and I was kind of thinking, well, this could work. The trauma of whatever they had beforehand and then crashing, I would figure if there is some type of spirit out there, a Wendigo, whatever you name it, I would think it would try to latch on to them, and
Hi, Hunter. Good to see
uh,
you.
I think it would latch on to them, but like kind of hop over from like almost like body to body and try to get them to go at each other for the sake of whatever the hell it wants. But my counter to is, if it was supernatural, I believe the writing would have eventually stated this in this season, in season 2. Much of how the stories are linked to supernatural and psychology, eventually you would have gotten the answer sooner or later. And I feel like keeping it as vague as possible, it's like sooner or later you have to fucking say, is this all like just psychological trauma? Or is this all supernatural stuff related? You know, sooner or later you have to abide by and confirm, yes, these are it. And I feel like a series that just keeps it just kind of vague, it's like that doesn't really help, because even some of the best writers, sooner or later they're going to sit there and say, was the ghost real? It's like, no, none of it was real. It was all a mental construct.
Fine to leave it vague. And I think the vagueness has purpose. I think because you have to figure it out for yourself based
Yeah,
on what you're seeing. I honestly rather prefer that than the writers just going, "Oh, there's a ghost" or something, you know.
yeah,
I mean, unless it was like skillfully done, I think the vagueness actually lends itself to questioning if it exists or not.
yeah. But like, I mean, like even with stuff like with um, William Peter Blatty, like when he would do his stuff, it wasn't always that out there. Like he always went through science first, and he went through all the psychological stuff. Hey, is it schizophrenia? Is it this? Which, you know, have it at that. Lottie is schizophrenic, and everything. But you also have that seance thing that goes on there, and it's like you can't really make heads or tails of it. Which is why I love season 1, because it kept you guessing, and there were moments where you can say that's supernatural, but then there were moments of that feels like that's psychological. That feels like this is all in their heads, and someone it took someone to freak out in order for everyone else to go into a mass panic and everything.
I think what really cemented my belief that there's no wilderness is when Lottie, the most crazy one the one who basically invented it,
Mm-hmm.
um, when Shauna says there is no it. It was us all along. And Lottie says, what does it matter?
Yeah,
And at that point, she's so far gone that she would rather kill Shauna than admit that everything that they had been doing before that was basically to no purpose, was fucked up, and they would have to face those traumas and like face those consequences of what they did. instead of having this like scapegoat of, oh, the wilderness told us to do it,
Yeah,
you know. So I mean, that cemented it for me personally.
I could definitely sit there and have it on there, but like I mean like with most modern day shows when you don't know what it is, like Lost never really kind of told you was it supernatural or was this, and then when they tried to sit there and tell you it was this all along, but then they switched it on you, that's where I kind of felt like a lot of people felt screwed. And while this series has not reached that lengths of Lost, I do feel like somewhere sooner or later, and maybe it's with this one scene in particular, of what all doesn't matter if it's real or not. It's you know, uh, take it as you will and everything, which that works all on its own. I think that's probably a lot smarter written compared to like what Lost did. But even then, I don't even think the writers knew what they were doing. But I kind of feel like the writers here know what they're doing.
I think when the characters admit that it doesn't matter if
Yeah.
it's real or not, I think that's the point of no return. And the point of like, will is it not, that you kind of face throughout season one and most of season two,
Mm-hmm.
is because like the characters believe in it. And so
Yeah.
when the characters stop believing in it, there's no reason that you should either.
Does this show have good writing? Because that's the most important part of any show for me. I believe season one is the best written part of this. Season two has some weak spots. They stretched out some stuff when they shouldn't, and to me when you kind of look at just the substance of season one compared to season two, it kind of felt like they set up something super great and then they did not know really how to follow that up and
I
everything.
think
Like they have
it's
great set
hard to do.
pieces.
Yeah. I think when you set up so many things in season one and you without much planning or even maybe and there was a lot of wrenches thrown in their plan too, right? Like Juliette Lewis, she didn't want to be a part of the show anymore. So that probably changed the script entirely. Um, with working in all these other characters and like trying to like hurry up and finish her story. So that was a huge one. I think even Javi, who's the kid, he they were concerned about him growing up too much. Because between season one and two, he already looked way older. So that was another big thing that they were concerned about and why they killed him off. It's just things like
I
that
wonder why
with,
they didn't recast
especially
him
with the
then.
strikes. I think I don't.
They,
I
they,
kind of
they
hate
already did it
recasts.
to they did it to another character. I cannot remember. It's not Crystal, but there is she's always with Mari, um, but the girl that's with her in season two is not the same actress, but it's all the same character. I cannot remember the name, but there were a lot of people that pointed out
Um,
that there was a recast, and so if it's something like that, I guess because since Javi is not a background character, like
yeah.
he's a bit more supporting. It's just he's not in every scene or whatever. Um, I guess they probably just figured I can't do it. Hannes, you're gonna get spoilers here with this, so sorry, not sorry. But uh, with that being said, do you have any more questions, Mitty, before we wrap up? I know you have
Um,
something you need to do.
I think that's all for me.
You think that's all for you? All right. Well, thank you so much again, Middeclass, for being here on this penultimate episode of Cinema Alley. Next month we will have our finale. We'll be covering Dark Side of the Ring, which is a documentary series off on Vice that talks about wrestling in the territory years and all sorts of things. You get all these really weird stories. Some stories you may have heard of, some stories you may never have heard of, and everything about the men and women inside and outside the ring and the events that happened. I will be covering that with Tommy Brewer. We plan on covering that. I think it's June 8th is when we're covering that. Thank you, Mitty, so much again for being here. Thank you for introducing a great show. I definitely cannot wait next year for season 3. Um, Season 3 better not get out of the fucking water. That's all I gotta sit there and say, because I like
I
season
agree.
2, but season 2 had some weak writing. There was stuff that felt
As
rushed and
long as
everything.
Elijah Wood is basically the main character, I'll be happy.
Yeah, like all I gotta sit there and say is he's gonna have to fucking pull Misty out of the fucking muddy waters here. I was waiting for another doggy cameo. We got 2 doggy cameos back to back episodes. I live for these. I should probably clip that and everything. But thank you so much again for being here, and thank you guys
Of course.
all